and they find loot in them, but some of the time at least they'll be doing that inside dungeons, whether they be active for whatever reason, or ancient abandoned dungeons. I kind of imagine that like the world has vast areas underneath it, not all interconnected. Some man-made areas, some naturally formed cave systems, etc., etc. But there's going to be like this huge subterranean area to explore, and it's all going to be about descending deeper and deeper and deeper, and the dungeons will kind of work with a leveled system where the deeper you go, the more challenging it becomes. A, to slay your adversaries, and B, just to make it back to the surface alive. So dungeons is kind of like a blanket term, like you say. Some will be caves, some will be ancient ruins of other sorts, underground cities which have been abandoned, like ancient dwarven cities or something like that. But some of them will also actually genuinely be dungeons too. Well, dungeons are definitely a thing that are just laying around, especially when there's been ancient cities which have dungeons below them, and then those cities have been destroyed by giants or whatever else has been, and all trace of life has been wiped out, and then thousands of years have passed, and then a legend emerges about how there was once this city and it was destroyed by the hill giant invasion, and it's apparently in this region of the world, and the players can go there and potentially dig their way into the ancient dungeon that potentially or apparently or supposedly or is rumored to remain there. So there can be old abandoned dungeons. There can also be just actual dungeons, like active prisons below the cities, which for some reason the players might find themselves in also. Yeah, I would kind of say I'm not super familiar with D&D, but I assume kind of like the Underdark, just like lots of subterranean shit going on down there. Okay, world generation, world tags, faction generation. Not really doing a factions thing, that's more going to be like on the fly stuff for DM storytelling. And this rule set's going to start out very vague and probably remain quite vague right through until completion. Just because that's the sort of style I'm going for. Anyway, it's more of like just a thing you can pick up to enable you to tell that collective story with your friends, as opposed to it being very much like you pick this thing up, you're in this world, it contains this type of people and these exact monsters and these exact factions and this and that, and it's got some loose defining parameters, like how magic was abolished and is kind of illegal essentially in settlements and that kind of thing, and the fact that the settlements are heavily fortified and that most people live in there terrified of the wilderness. Stuff like that loosely is defined, but it's largely vague and open-ended. I'm Itimez. Welcome, bro. This game, well, I don't know. I don't know at this stage. If I ever get it to a standard that I feel would be worth paying for, then maybe there'll be something like a Kickstarter campaign or an Indiegogo or whatever or a Patreon, that's the other one. Something like that may be involved, and copies may be available in digital form for a very small price or something like that. But at this moment in time, I don't have any plans of that sort. I'm just making something that I personally will enjoy and that will enable me to create, hopefully, compelling campaigns for other people to enjoy too. But there's always that possibility if it ever reaches that level of polish. The Underdark is the name for all interconnected cave systems that run under the world. Oh, so is everything interconnected there? Because that would be interesting, A, and B, in this system, not everything would be interconnected. It's not like one massive subterranean dungeon that links in from everywhere and all places and things. Though it could potentially be. I mean, that's pretty exciting. It could be if the DM decided it was that way, I guess. There could be like secret passageways from one city to another, and people could be trying to smuggle things through there, and smuggle magic maybe even. It's getting interesting. But essentially, yes, an Underdark kind of feel or vibe or concept. Adventure creation. Adventure outline. A hook. Record specifics. NPCs. Monsters. That kind of shit. Pick or create maps. Okay. Choose rewards. It's all very simple stuff. Don't necessarily know if I need a full chapter or even anything explaining that kind of thing. I probably do, don't I? I probably need at least a small piece that tells you, like, how to balance some encounters, how to reward the players, that kind of thing. Oh, of course, this is the important part, the experience rewards. Adventure seeds. Don't think I'm creative enough to write 100 adventure seeds into the book, so that's not going to be finished anytime soon if I do that. Alien creations, like monster creation, Xenobestiary. I'm essentially going to have this table, or one extremely similar. Human foes, robots, definitely not applicable. Societies, interesting. Conflicts. Game Master resources down here. A lot of stuff which is a little bit beyond me at this point, but like I say, you never know, it might reach that level of flourish? What would you say, eventually? So I think the first thing to implement is going to be the monster tables, essentially, which is just going to involve stealing this, as I've stolen almost everything else out of this system. You'll have to define low magic for me. I do not know what low magic is. Do you mean a low presence of magic, or does it mean something else? Okay, well that Kysriel. Welcome back, dude. How's it going? Is it possible to copy this table? Guess not. Ah, yes, then it is a low magic setting, dude. That is great. I did not know the definition. Tuna mac and cheese. Well, I do hope you enjoy yourself, so. Yes, it's a low magic setting. I didn't know that was a thing, low magic, so that's literally the perfect phrase for me to define this system with. It's a high fantasy, low magic tabletop role-playing game. That's beautiful. Okay, this is just a nightmare. I'm going to copy these across. Throw this over here. Well, I hope that tuna mac and cheese is good. That's all I can say. Magic is both rare and illegal, essentially, in this system. So it's low magic with a prohibition sort of element as well. That didn't work. Okay. Fudge. This sucks. From what you see, looks like magic caused some problems in the past. If that's the case, it would still be low magic, yeah. But it also explains why magic would be found in ruins, exactly, and give players a reason to explain to why to find some relics from the magic areas. That's absolutely correct. That's the exact idea I was going for. The leaders who control the armies essentially are afraid of the magic users because their power can essentially surpass the power that they have simply with their swords and their siege weapons and their castle defenses. So they're afraid of the wizards, and they try to make it criminal to be a wizard and hang or behead wizards or whatever the hell they do as some strange dark punishment. No worries, dude, it's all good. I can't type correctly anyway, at any point in time. So yeah, it fits in nicely as a story element, and it also gives magic that like scarceness that makes it really sought after and cool. Okay, monster table now exists. That's a good thing. How we're doing on the stream here. Can't remember when I took a break. Okay, I think it was like... No, that can't be right at all. Who knows? Who knows when I took a break, dudes? I don't know. I have no idea when I took a break, but I would imagine that this is roughly around the right time. Notralon, welcome, sir. How is it going? Robots could be something to do with constructs, but you know, we're going to have constructs in this system as a mob type, but I'm not really going to write any rules that surround piloting constructs or building them or or anything of that nature. I'm not going to do any work towards balancing that type of thing. I definitely think constructs will be found in old ruins and the likes, but they aren't necessarily going to be pilotable things that can be tampered with. It's which is the type of robot that they are talking about in SWN. It's like mechs, like literal mech suits. I'm not sure if I am going to take a break or if we're just going to do one more hour and then call it quits. What I do need, though, is a bio break, so I shall be back in 2 seconds, bros. Sorry for the delay there, bros. Like 2.5 hours ago. Yeah, I think that's a pretty darn good estimate there, so. Well, we've done a lot. We've come pretty far today. So, let's recap real fast. Sorry, got distracted by Stars Without Number. Again, let's close that for now. Get chat back up over here. Right. I'm going to do a full recap. I'm going to really go in with a fresh mindset, seeing as I did this like 2 or 3 days ago now. And we'll see how it's looking. Okay, so introduction. The system. The rules of this system are designed in such a manner as to encourage fast-paced and spontaneous campaign and encounter progression, drawing inspiration from many sources, new and old. The game offers a minimized rule set that will not appear intimidating to newer players, while simultaneously offering enough depth to accommodate veterans of the genre. Dungeon masters with a vision of their own should find this system perfectly suitable. However, there are also tools provided which allow for the procedural generation of a world filled with adventure. I do want to mention in that section that the system is kind of hardcore, like it's easy to die, but I'm not quite sure how to express that yet, so it's just kind of staying like that. The setting. The world is harsh and unforgiving. Humanity clings to a fragile form of civilization, dotted throughout the seemingly endless wilderness. Kings and queens control vast numbers of fearful citizens by offering some vague sense of security within walled cities. Cities guarded by their personal armies. Most humans seek some kind of stable existence within these settlements. However, there are a brave or possibly reckless few who wish to control their own destinies, striking out into the wilderness in search of power and the wisdom to control that power. Then we've got character creation. Select a race from the following list. Races provide no specific advantages as they simply serve to modify the aesthetics of the character and ultimately how they interact with the world. That may need to be changed because of the previously mentioned thing about how size will impact things like grappling, etc. So I may have to give some consideration to that. It's still not going to alter base stats, but it may factor in to a degree. So, dwarves, hailing from the depths of the deepest mines and subterranean cities, dwarfs are short, hardy characters with a powerful grip and a wide stature. Many of this race will never see the light of the sun. I should say the light of day, it sounds cooler. But, okay, the light of the sun. However, a curious few rise to the surface in search of beasts and artifacts spoken of only in legend. God, that tripping over my words. Still a fan of giving stats to races. Yeah, I like it, but it's the way that this system is balanced, it would break the game, unfortunately. So it is cool that you could say, like, choose a certain race synergistically to synergize with your class to gain some kind of advantage, because it gives players like some logical problem solving to do during character creation, which can make them stronger ultimately. It's like metagaming or whatever, and it gives some depth and things. But the way that SWN works, and due to the fact that this is based so heavily on that, if you gained modifications to your attributes by selecting a certain race, it would unfortunately break the skills. I definitely think, players will probably have some vision of their character in their mind, and they'll know what type of race they're looking for, so. Elf. Sharing in a deep communion with nature, elves respect the wilderness and its beasts, regardless of their brutal nature. Often living directly from the land, they possess a deep, intuitive understanding of the shifting skies, migrating animals, and turning of the seasons. Typically, they stand as tall as a human, with bright eyes, hair the color of vegetation, and a slender physique. These descriptions are kind of vague. They could be more in depth. They may need to be bulked out, But I'm no creative writer, so right now it's quite vague. It's probably going to be quite vague for a long time. Half-elves. Descended from humans and elves, half-elves inherit many of the characteristics of both their parent races, with a more robust build than their elven brethren, and more human characteristics. They integrate well into most human societies, adopting local customs and attire without hindrance. Halfling, wandering the wilds. Halflings are adventurous individuals who rarely settle long in one location. They stand about half the height of humans, but exhibit an identical build. Halfling males do not grow beards, unlike dwarfs, but they do proudly wear thick and full sideburns. I just couldn't resist mentioning the sideburns. Often they will braid and style their dark hair in intricate and beautiful ways. Human, often dwelling within the relative safety of their settlements. Humans exhibit a wide range of characteristics with varying eye, skin, and hair colors, along with quite dramatic differences in height and weight. Classes. Beautiful. Select a class from the following list, but remember, an ineffective party composition will almost certainly lead to death. Warrior. Eager to fight on the front line, the warrior never shies away from battle, serving as a devastating combatant, wielding enormous two-handed weapons, or as... I keep putting double words in, what the fuck? Or as a protector, clutching a sturdy shield. The warrior is a vital asset for any group of adventurers. And the class special ability, Veteran's Luck, once per encounter, the warrior completely negates a successful attack made against them. Rogue, a devious trickster who skulks in the shadows. The rogue relies heavily on stealth and the element of surprise, dual-wielding daggers and other small blades. The rogue serves as a powerful damage dealer, especially when they have poisons at their disposal. Assassinate is the class special ability. Once per encounter, the rogue attacks with both melee weapons. Hunter. Stalking through thick wilderness, the hunter possesses a keen eye and a steady bow hand. With powerful ranged attacks, they excel at dealing damage from afar, whilst remaining a safe distance from the front line of battle. And now we have a bit more of an in-depth explanation for the hunter, as they have a cold shot. Hunters can perform cold shots, aiming for a specific area of their target's body. Heads gain +2 to damage rolls. Torsos gain +2 to attack rolls. Arms can potentially disarm the target on a hit. Legs slow the target on a hit. If an enemy is within 5 feet of the hunter, they receive a -2 penalty to ranged attack rolls. True shot. Once per encounter, the hunter re-rolls a missed ranged attack roll. I realize that if you use a headshot, you can simply negate that penalty. No, not a headshot, a torso shot. Interesting. We're going to have to see how that plays out. True shots, once per encounter, the hunter re-rolls a missed ranged attack roll. Wizards. Wielding vast tomes of arcane knowledge, wizards conjure a wide array of magical effects to hinder their foes and aid their allies. With an insatiable appetite for knowledge, they are not physically gifted, but possess unmatched intelligence. They gain a mana pool equal to their total intellect score. Clerics, devoting their life to religious service, the cleric has been blessed with the gift of divine power. Wielding divine symbols, they smite their foes and heal their allies, making them a crucial member for any party of explorers. They gain a mana pool equal to the total wisdom score. Bards, entertaining and inspiring the masses, bards are the most talented and eccentric performers. Raising the morale of their party, the right song or melody may drastically alter the outcome of battle, or other such challenges, making them a critical component in a band of adventurers. Inspiring performance being the class special ability. Once per encounter, the bard inspires one ally, allowing them to re-roll a failed skill check. I'm curious now, I'm just thinking, should that be buffed? Should it be buffed? Should bards allow re-rolls of attack rolls too? Maybe they should even allow re-rolls of magical effects, like Fireball or Frostbolt. Maybe they can aid a party member in re-rolling one of those. No worries, Beloin, no worries. So that, I mean, that, like, I really want to make the bard viable. And not just viable, but a really quite a powerful tool, so that it doesn't become overlooked, so that there is quite a strong incentive to play a bard, because obviously the others are very heavily incentivized. And then when you say to someone, oh, you can play a bard, what's that? It's a musician or a singer. They're gonna think, that sounds pretty lame. Maybe. I think it sounds awesome personally. I love it because of Brooke from One Piece, of course, just like one of my favorite characters of all time. But also, as far as I understand, in some systems, bards were kind of weak and therefore not really a viable choice for most parties. you can't miss magic attacks, but your opponent can resist a magic attack. When you cast magic on an enemy, they make a magic saving throw, and if they're successful, they negate the effect, however, with their sheer willpower or with some arcane ability of their own or something. They negate it. So that's, you don't roll to attack, they actually roll to defend from the magic. So once per encounter, the bard inspires one ally, allowing them to re-roll a failed skill. It's once per encounter too, so it's not like it would be super OP if you could just give one person a re-rolled attack roll or magic cast. Which, I mean, it seems perfectly reasonable. In some systems, bards are one of the strongest class options. Bards are actually banned in the system that you're playing because of how strong they are. That's fascinating. Well, I don't want them to be overpowered by any means, but I do want them to be a viable asset here. And I think that this is a great solution. Because obviously, if you give someone a re-rolled attack roll or a failed magic or a failed spell, you can't give them a re-roll on a skill check. You know, it's one or the other. You very much have to assess the situation and choose carefully. But at the same time, it is very strong. A second chance at an attack or a skill check or a spell is huge. Definitely. Wow, they can level as 4 other classes. Damn. But of course, taking the longest. Attributes. Roll 3d6 6 times and assign the totals to Strength, Intelligence, Wisdom, Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma in any order you desire. Record the attribute modifier for each. Strength determines the physicality of a character with regard to their musculature. Intelligence determines the mental capacities of a character, including learning and recollection. Wisdom determines the inherent abilities of a character, such as intuition and perception. Dexterity determines the speed and nimbleness of a character, including reaction. Maybe that should say reactions. Balance and reactions. Constitution determines the resilience of a character when faced with disease or physical hardship. Charisma determines the social abilities of a character, such as deception or performance. Skills. Warriors, rogues, hunters, and bards pick any 7 unique skills, at least 3 of which must be class skills. Wizards and clerics pick any 5 unique skills, at least 2 of which must be class skills. We've got Arcana for detecting magic, identifying magical items, use of magical languages, athletics, climbing, running, pushing, pulling, carrying, martial arts, blacksmithing, repairing armor and weapons, crafting new armor and weapons, combat melee. of course. Combat ranged. Combat unarmed, all self-explanatory. Cooking, producing rations for the party. Dungeoneering, navigating underground, foraging underground. Knowledge of dungeon fauna and flora. Equestrianism, taming horses, maintaining stables, riding horses. Gambling, playing card games, playing dice games, betting on fighting or sporting events. Healing, stabilizing unconscious characters, treating wounded characters. History, royalty, wars, laws, legends, traditions, customs, events, leadership, gaining followers, commanding. Linguistics, fluency, multilingualness. Multilingualness, that needs to be a word. I just can't say multilingual. Fuck. Nature, tracking, herbalism, foraging, knowledge of wilderness fauna and flora, navigation, plotting courses on land or at sea, perception, looking, hearing, smelling, testing, tasting, touching, or otherwise. I mean, how else do you sense things? Pretty much no other ways as a human. Performance, singing, playing musical instruments, acting, persuasion, intimidation, deception, persuasion, gaining trust, reassurance. Reassurance is kind of like the same thing as gaining trust. I'm gonna just put reassurance. Intimidation, deception, persuasion, reassurance. Religion, gods, holy grounds, traditions, ceremonies, burials, cremations, seafaring, commanding a crew, sailing, stealth, discreetness. Tactics, maneuvering troops, recognizing ambushes, setting up fighting positions, thievery, sleight of hand, lockpicking, pickpocketing, trading, selling items, bargaining, bartering. I want to say bartering, but the definition of bartering is essentially the same thing as trading. Bargaining is the correct term, even though I have different associations in my mind that lead me to feel like it's wrong. It's correct. Trapping, setting traps, and disarming traps, where we did put blacksmithing in, that's right, it is there, good. Spells. Wizards and clerics pick 2 spells with a mana cost no higher than 1 from their respective tables. Okay, that's... and gain a mana pool with a maximum number of mana points equal to the intelligence score for wizards or wisdom score for clerics. Cleric spells include Healing Prayer. 1 ally restores 1 hit dice plus wisdom hit points per mana spent. That's 1 to 9 mana. Turn Undead. I'm thinking about reworking the cleric class so that all damages caused by the cleric spells deal double damage to undead monsters. Because right now I've got this Turn Undead spell, which deals a high amount of damage, especially for a level 1 spell, to an undead enemy. But I would prefer that to be like just a normal, some kind of damaging spell, and then all of their spells gain like twice as many damage dice when cast on undead. I think I prefer that method, so I'm probably going to do that ultimately. Sacred Mark, deal weapon damage plus wisdom. No, sorry, yes. Deal weapon damage plus wisdom damage to 1 enemy and grant 1 ally plus 2 to their next attack against it. Purification removes all effects that a save can end from 1 ally. Guiding Light, illuminate darkness and grant all allies a +1 to perception checks. Water Walking, grant 1 ally the ability to walk on water as if it was solid ground. Divine Inspiration, grant all allies a +1 bonus to all attack rolls until the encounter ends. Divine Shield, grant all allies a -1 bonus to AC until the encounter ends. Positive, so make healing hurt undead. Probably not going to do that just because of how it works with the variable mana ranges, where you can essentially spend, say, 9 mana to grant someone 9 hit dice. Because obviously, like, 9 hit dice is going to be 9d8 damage. to a monster. So if there was like an undead boss or something with really high HP, like let's say it had um, 10 hit dice, and then you hit it for 9 hit dice damage, you could potentially one-shot undead bosses. I think the safer way to balance it is to make it so that the damaging spells simply deal twice as many dice, not double damage. You don't roll the normal dice and multiply it by 2. You actually gain twice as many dice and roll. Divine Weapon. All successful weapon attacks deal an additional 1d4 damage until the encounter ends. That is a good point, sir. I did not write the rule for mana restoration. I believe I'm going to do the same thing as... Well, okay. It's either going to be the same as hit points, you gain your level in mana each day, but I don't like that idea, actually. I'm thinking about it now, and I can't use that method. So what I'm going to do is grant 1 mana per day, or sorry, 1 mana per night of rest. Like, so you sleep 8 hours, let's say, you gain 1 mana. Then if you rest all day again, you gain a second point. So you either gain 1 point per day or 2 points per day if all you're doing is resting. Okay, that's good. We know the mana rule. Each day, after sufficient rest, a player character with a mana pool gains 1 point of mana. Yeah, it's going to force them to make efficient decisions and use their spells carefully. If they spend... Okay, if they rest all day, they gain 1 additional point of mana. Beautiful. Thanks for reminding me about the mana, dude. Purify the Masses, that's an AoE version of Purification, of course. Healing Font, it's an AoE heal. All allies restore 1 hit dice plus wisdom hit points. Somehow I got that wrong. Per 2 mana spent, and that can be 2 to 18 mana. Divine Vigor, grant 1 ally use of their special ability. Again, that's really powerful, but at the same time, it will take up a spell slot. I'm thinking of doing like 6 spells, sort of maximum at any one time. So you could know all of the spells, but you can only ever use 6 of them in a day. And then after a night of rest, you can choose to swap them out and choose a different 6 or just replace a few. Kind of like the Guild Wars system from the original Guild Wars. I don't know how the new one is. Just to make the casters try to craft a build for their character with 6 spells that they feel will be most beneficial. It might not be 6, it could be 8, it could be 4, probably not 4, but it could be a different value, but I'm just throwing 6 out there to begin with. And then let's say you were going on a certain mission one day, you could choose a specific 6 for that mission. And then the next day, if you're doing something different and you feel something needs to be changed, you can swap something out for something that's going to be a spell that's going to be more beneficial to the quest at hand. Essentially a mix of spell preparation and a mana system, yes. Disarm. Destroy one of an enemy's weapons. Blinding light. Blind everyone within 20 feet. Within 20 feet. That should be meters, I believe. Let's just put it like that. Who is capable of seeing the cleric until the encounter ends. So you can essentially just blind your allies if you don't communicate with them to shield their eyes or look away, or if something goes wrong, you could blind your allies. So there's a downside to that spell. Radiant Wisdom. Deal 1d6 plus wisdom damage to all enemies within 20 feet. Cast Doubt. Enemies must make morale checks plus wisdom. The more I read these, the more I like the idea of double damage to undead targets, because they really don't have very many damaging things, and the things that they do have to deal damage with don't deal very much damage at all. So just having that little bonus when fighting undead is really going to help the cleric out. Cast Doubt. Enemies must make morale check modified by the cleric's wisdom. Destroy. A bit powerful, but it does cost 3 mana. 3 whole mana. That's a lot of mana in this system. The maximum possible mana that you could ever have under the rarest of scenarios is 18. So let's say you have a regular mana pool of 12. You could disarm, 4 opponents? And then you'll be completely for days. For literally days. I'll consider knocking it out of their hands, but I'm going to run the first tests with this particular ruling, I think. We'll see. Well, it could be too strong, but we shall see. I'll keep it in mind. So Cast Out, essentially a fear, and it prompts a morale check, which is potentially very strong, but again 3 mana. Well, a mana pool is based on either your wisdom or your intelligence, so it can be anywhere from 3 to 18. So as you can imagine, your average mana pool is going to be like 10 or 12, something around that region. If you roll incredibly poorly somehow, you could have 3 mana and you wouldn't even be able to cast some of these spells, so that would be quite ridiculous. Rapture. Send an ally to another dimension where they remain safe until the encounter ends. Now that might sound a bit weird, but remember, in this system there's no combat resing. There's actually no combat resing at all. And we'll get to that, I believe, yes, slightly. Will we? Yes, slightly later on, so. Eternal Damnation. Banish an enemy to the underworld forever. pretty OP again, but 4 mana cost. Convert Mind. Force an enemy to fight for the party until the encounter ends. That one, it kind of terrifies me, I'll be honest with you, but should be interesting. Clerics use holy symbols to channel divine... Why is that wrong? Oh, I see. Divine energy, applying their wisdom, combat spellcasting, and any bonus the symbol provides to their rolls. That's not true at all. That's from a really old version. And I'm also not going to give bonuses from symbols or weapons or anything of that nature, so... Maybe I'll have to for symbols, though. I'm going to have to give that some thought. Yes. Boulogne says, I feel mana potions should be hard to come by because of how rare magic users are. Completely agree. And if we go to the item tables, so these are all of the basic items. We've got all of the basic exploration gear, the basic tools, the basic consumables. Those can all be purchased in towns from NPCs quite freely. But if you get down to the artifact items, none of these can be purchased in towns. You can't purchase healing potions in towns. You can't purchase mana potions, berserker potions, magic defense potions, invisibility potions, smoke bombs, large mana potions, everlasting provisions, resurrection potions, bags of holding, or flying carpets. None of those can be purchased in town. They will have to be found through exploration of the world, either being crafted by the players themselves when they find the ingredients and craft the items, craft the potions or whatever, make the smoke bomb or sew a flying carpet, or you'll have to find some rare and powerful NPC and convince them somehow by doing favors for them or just having a silver tongue to bestow upon you their magical artifact items. So all of that stuff is going to be super difficult to find. And that again contributes to it being a really hardcore system, like really pushing the difficulty and challenging the players. Okay, wizard spells. Illusory sound. Create a sound or voice at a target object or location. Arcane light. Create a light at... fucking formatting errors everywhere. At a location, or cause an item to emit light. Telekinesis. Manipulate an object of up to 2 encumbrance within 20, that should be meters. I was almost positive that meant feet, but I'm sure the system, or SWN, works in meters, so... Deal 2d4 plus intelligence damage to 1 enemy, magic missile. Fireball, deal 1d6 plus intelligence damage to 1 enemy, igniting them. Frostbolt, deal 1d6 plus intelligence damage to 1 enemy, slowing them. Speak with animals, temporarily gain the ability to speak with animals. Teleportation, teleport to a visible location up to 10 meters away. Not sure if I'm going to stick with 10 or if that's going to get buffed or exactly how that's going to work. I might make it up to 15 or 20 possibly. 10 it's just seeming a bit small. So disguise, change the appearance of yourself, your clothing and your equipment. Invisibility. The target is invisible until out of range or until the end of the encounter. Conjure refreshments. Produce 1 day's worth of rations for the party that will disappear after 1 day. Levitation. Levitate up to 20 meters above the ground. Come on, please, word. This is... God damn, it's fucked up right now. What the fuck? Levitate up to 20 meters above the ground until the encounter ends or you stop sustaining levitation. Featherfall, the wizard or one ally, falls gradually, like a feather, towards the ground. Polymorph, turn one humanoid into a small animal until they are damaged or the encounter ends. I think that's... Maybe not. Maybe they just turn into an animal permanently. Mana Shield. Gain a -2 bonus to AC until you are hit or the encounter ends. Dispel magic. Remove all beneficial magic effects from one enemy. Sleep. Cause one enemy to fall into a deep sleep. Arcane Volley. Deal 3d6 plus intelligence damage split between up to 3 enemies. Rain of Fire. Deal 1d6 plus intelligence damage to all enemies within 20 meters of the target, igniting them. So maybe that should say target location. Blizzard, deal 1d6 plus intelligence damage to all enemies within 20 feet of the target. Location, slowing them. Stop time, gain 2 additional turns that cannot be used to attack. Time starts again after the second turn ends. Meteor Shower, deal 2d6 plus intelligence damage to all enemies within 20 meters of the target. Location, and force an evasion save. So essentially they can be pinned by a meteor if they fail, which is pretty ridiculous. You feel like Dispel Magic should also... But you see that reduces the viableness of the Cleric, because the Cleric can remove all effects that a save can end from one ally. So the Cleric has the spell to remove negative magical effects from allies, whereas the Wizard has the offensive version of removing positive effects from enemies. So it's divided across the two classes as to give them both very... well, to increase the viability of both instead of condensing both things onto one class. Disintegration, deal 4d6, god damn, plus intelligence damage to one enemy. If their hit points are reduced to 0, they are turned to dust. So that spell has the slight downside that if you kill the enemy with it, all of their weapons and items that they may have been carrying, possibly something evil, even vital to the quest, could simply be turned to dust and disintegrated by the disintegration spell. Return Portal. Open a portal to any location the wizard has become familiar with. So you have to have visited it a few times. Maybe it's an inn that you're familiar with, or even the headquarters of the party if you become wealthy enough to have yourself a headquarters. Wizards use wands, staves, nice word, and orbs to channel arcane energy, applying their intelligence. Modifier to their... rolls. Spells. Keep it consistent. Hit points. Roll your class-specific hit die and your sorry, that's missing a word. And well, it gives more viability to the wizard, but it makes the cleric slightly less viable because the wizard can also fulfill the same role. So it's separated out so that only the cleric can fulfill that role and only the wizard can fulfill the role of dispelling magic from enemies. So it becomes much more of a situation where, like, we need both a wizard and a cleric ideally, instead of it being like, oh well, a wizard can do both of those things, so we should probably just choose that one over the cleric. I know it's only a subtle difference, but I would rather keep it separated between the classes. Warriors with 1d8 plus con, rogues, hunters, and clerics with 1d6, wizards and bards with 1d4. Languages. All characters speak common alongside their racial. Wealth and equipment receive 1d12 plus 8 gold that can be spent on weapons, armor, and equipment, but not artifacts. Any excess wealth can be stowed and spent at a later date. I quite like the term date there. Player system. Skill checks. 2d6 plus skill level, plus attribute modifier, plus bonus or penalty. Difficulty classes. 1 to 5 requires no check. A 6 to 7 is easy. An 8 to 9 is medium. A 10 to 11 is hard. A 12 to 13 is extreme. And a 13 plus is classified as impossible, though it isn't. Initiative. 1d8 plus dexterity modifier. Higher rolls act first. In the case of a tie, players always act first. Attacks. 1d20 plus target AC plus attack bonus plus combat skill plus attribute modifier plus the bonus or penalty. On a natural 20, deal maximum weapon damage. On a natural 1, the weapon breaks. In the case of a bow, the string breaks. Restringing a bow requires 1 turn. Damage. Appropriate damage. Damage over time. Some effects cause damage once per turn. Rolling a successful saving throw will end the effect. Some examples of damage over time effects can be found below. Burning 1d6 per turn. Physical saving throw will end. Poison 1d4 per turn. Physical saving throw will end. Disease 1d8 per day. Resistance of 8 and physical saving throw will end. We haven't mentioned exactly what a resistance is anywhere. It's going to need to be under here. Curing a character of a disease requires a healing skill check versus the resistance of the disease. Yeah, you're definitely not restringing a bow. I've never seen it done, but I would imagine that you can't restring a bow in 6 seconds. Maybe 1 turn is too fast. Maybe it will be 2 turns. Let's nerf it even to 2 turns now. Damn, that's harsh, but at least they can restring their bow. Any other player has a broken weapon to deal with. 12 seconds, probably very fast to restring a bow anyway, but I'm kind of taking that anime influence where the player characters are, their power levels are over 9,000. They can do things that normal humans would never be capable of. But I'm agreeing with you. I think one turn is a bit too fast. So we'll go with two, and we'll see how that plays out during testing. Saving throws, 1d20 versus difficulty class, physical, magic, evasion, luck. Movement. During an encounter, player characters can move up to 20 meters or up to 40 if they sacrifice their action. Terrain travel time penalties. Plains or desert, non-light forest/hills, minus 25%. I can remove that now. I'm pretty sure. Oh no. We should keep that. Okay, that's fine. I was just thinking about the glacial environment and whether the horses would ignore some of that movement penalty, but I really don't think they would. They're not like alpacas or something that can survive really harsh conditions. Yeah, breaking a weapon is extremely harsh, but that's the intention behind it. You could have the weapon repaired. Yeah, it's very true. It's very true, but as I've said, the system is incredibly punishing and is going to present situations like that to the players. Initially, you see the Stars Without Number system does not have crits, but it also does not have critical failures. So when I added crits to kind of balance it out, I also added the weapon breaking effect, which personally I really enjoyed because it literally can get you killed quite easily, which I absolutely love. I mean, it's not necessarily going to be one of those systems where you can just go in safely thinking that you're going to be able to play this character for months and months, like session after session. It's much more of a thing where survival is the rare thing. Like, that doesn't really happen. If you actually make it to a high level, that's extremely either lucky or impressive that you've actually found a way to achieve that. It also, I mean, the fact that weapons can break makes the blacksmithing skill much more viable, and just adds an element which I really enjoy. Terrain with an asterisk can be ignored when traveling on horseback. Encumbrance. A character can carry up to half of their strength score in readied items and up to their full strength score in stowed items. Additional items can be carried at the expense of movement speed. These penalties are removed when traveling on horseback. 2 to 4 additional items is light encumbrance, and that is in meters. Again, I might have to go through and change them all to have an M for meters. 6 to 8 edition systems is heavy, 10 meters per. Yeah, there is like there is kind of a minimum party size. I think with less than 3 players, it's probably going to be a bit of a struggle. Yeah, clerics are the only way to heal. But you don't necessarily have to have a healer. It would just require a different form of strategizing to manage situations or encounters. But of course it is ideally a 7-player game with 6 party members and a DM. Ideally, but it could still be played with a 2-man party, a 3-man party or something, but of course there will be additional challenges involved. Oh shit, we've got 2 mana sections now. That's my bad. I mean, you could even play a solo campaign. It would just be up to the dungeon master to balance the encounters accordingly. Mana can be spent by casting spells. Casting with no available mana will consume hit points. Each day, after sufficient rest, a player character with a mana pool gains 1 point of mana. If they rest all day, they gain 1 additional point of mana. No, any class can learn blacksmithing. It's just that warrior is more proficient at blacksmithing. If it's not a class ability, that doesn't mean that you can't train in it. You can still train in it, but it's more expensive to train in it. So anyone can be a blacksmith, or you can find an NPC who is a blacksmith, but ideally your warrior will be the party's blacksmith. It's not forced, though. You could have a wizard blacksmith if you really wanted to. A 6-person session could be a bit daunting for newer DMs, but you've also got to take into consideration that all of these rules have been minimized massively to, like, during combat there's almost nothing that you have to track or keep tabs on, really. It's just the basic stats of the players and of the enemies, and then maybe some slows and some damage over time effects, which can be tracked with a symbol or just with a quick note or something. There's very minimal note taking and tracking. I mean, I've watched sessions of 5th edition and things with really, really experienced DMs, and they still get confused because there's so many things going on. So I feel like this system will probably be a lot simpler, because I've seen the Critical Role game with Matt Mercer as DM. I believe they have 6, and sometimes they have 8 party members. I'm pretty sure they have up to 8 players in 5th edition, and there's so much shit going on. It's crazy how much stuff is being tracked, and you can see that Matt Mercer, I mean, he makes mistakes, he gets confused, he forgets things have happened, and stuff like that, quite a lot, even in a really intense encounter at least. And I mean, he's got years of experience. So I think this system is going to really minimize the workload a lot, so that the DM is going to have a much easier time, as well as the players. Character advancement. Gaining hit points upon leveling, a character gains an additional hit die specific to their class. The player rolls it along with all previously acquired dice and adds their Constitution modifier once per dice. I need to reference the rule, because if it's once per level, that is very different. Once for each level of the character. Okay. So that's fine. Potentially. If the total is higher than their existing maximum hit points, it becomes their new maximum. From level 10, no additional hit dice are received. Instead, a +1 is applied to the roll for each level beyond 9. Gaining skills. Every level, a character gains a number of additional skill points dependent of their class. Class skills cost the desired level +1, whilst non-class skills cost the desired level +2. And there we see the exact number of skill points gained each level. Gaining spells. Spells are found throughout the world in the form of tomes, scrolls, or ancient carvings. I want to say carvings there. Dungeon Master systems, we've got morale, 2d6 versus morale score after the player draws first blood, and once again after 50% mortality. Make a morale check. If the roll is equal to or higher than the target's morale score, the enemies flee or surrender. Flee. To escape an encounter, the player characters must win an opposed athletics check, modified by Constitution. World generation, then we've got the villages with the beautiful populations. Absolutely love these populations. Great stuff. And the fortification levels, village, town, city, and metropolis. And then we have the terrain types: plains, desert, light forest, hills, heavy forest, jungle, swamps, glacial, lakes and rivers, and mountains. That is some really decent progress that we've made today. What time are we on? Do I have time to do anything else? Not really. Well, I guess we could just quickly rebalance the spells. Okay. Just going to move those notes over there. Clerics gain double the number of damage dice when attacking undead targets. How do I make this wrap? Okay, I did it. Nice. Clerics gain double the number of damage dice when not attacking, casting spells on undead targets. Beautiful. And then we've got drain mana and water breathing to consider in the future. Probably going to be wizard spells. Yeah, probably going to be wizard spells for those two. Well, I am quite pleased, bros. Quite pleased indeed. Holy shit, guys. So many of you in here right now. Thank you so much for watching, dudes. I really hope you've enjoyed this game development stream. I'm going to wrap up now, but because there's 5 of you tuned in, which is ludicrous, I'm going to throw you over to another stream. I'm going to give someone a host, just because it's the thing to do. It is the thing to do. So let's see who's online here. Is there anyone who would benefit from a few viewers? Maybe not, you know, maybe not. Oh, I take it all back. I take it all back, guys. Okay, I'm going to throw you over to Shadow Jackie. He's playing some Metal Slug 3 right now, which is a fucking amazing game. So I will see you next time, bros. Thank you so much. It's been a great day here on stream today. Played a small amount of Reflex, about 2 hours to begin. We did some 1v1 and then did some defrag, and then we jumped over for 6 hours of game development, and we made some sweet progress on the system today. I'm really pleased. So thanks again, bros. I will be back tomorrow. Peace out, and in the meantime, enjoy Shadow Jackie over on his stream. Peace out, bros.